you have not commented on the internet about this case at all?
I have not.
And I apologize if you've already covered this, but did you watch any of this on national news, even at the beginning stages?
I'm sure it crossed on in the beginning.
Do you recall which station you would have watched it on?
No, sir.
Do you favor one station over another?
No.
Okay.
No.
Have you visited any like legal websites dedicated to one side or the other, just to get informed about the case?
No.
Okay. We realize that when people are asked to serve as jurors, it's a hardship on anybody that's asked as a citizen of this great country to come and sit as jurors. But I think we all acknowledge that it's a hardship, but we ask people to do that, and we realize it's an inconvenience. So my question is as follows, and I know you kind of answered this already, but I want to make sure it's crystal clear. Both sides have tried to come up with an estimate of how long, once we get a jury, and we're still in the process, we're in week 2 of trying to pick a jury. So once we get a jury, we believe it will take anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks. And we realize, you know, nobody's like, okay, I'm signing up for that. But as we've talked about, that's the only way that really our system works, is to ask people to sacrifice. The question is, and also the court has made a determination that the jury will be sequestered so that there's no influence from outside forces, from the media trying to contact a juror, et cetera. The question is whether that would be an insurmountable hardship. We know it's a hardship. The question is whether it would be an insurmountable hardship.
It could be, sir. It could be for me.
Tell me a little bit about why that is.
Well, I mean, we're in a recovering market, and obviously you know what I do, so.
Yes, sir.
It could very conceivably do. But I also know that, you know, this is, the selfish part is to say no, that I wouldn't want to serve. But I'll let you gentlemen make that determination.
So even though it would be a hardship, as you stated, and it would not
Yes.
be the thing that you would ideally want to do.
Absolutely not.
But you realize that you might have to make the sacrifice, and you'd be willing to do it?
I would be, but
Okay.
but you could make me a happy man too. So.
Okay, I understand. Yeah, and listen, we all realize that. Everybody from the court to all the parties realize that it's an inconvenience for everybody, including all the parties. You know, that's part of the process. May I have a moment, Your Honor?
Mr. Mayor.
Has anybody close to you at all expressed an opinion? I know your your mother called you, but she was.
I've heard scattered opinions, yes, sir, and I really, and I've heard them from both sides of the coin. So, and those people know that I have no opinion too.
Sure. Okay. Were you ever leaning one way or the other, or are you just one of those individuals that just kind of tries to keep an open mind as you're going, realizing that?
No, I've got more experience than that. I mean, I might have been that way younger. But,
okay.
You know, we're getting older now, so.
Yes, sir. I can
Yeah.
relate to that. You mentioned the bringing the circus to town, and here's my question about that. Would any aspect about being a circus affect how you approach or deliberate and how you arrive at a decision in this case?
No, sir. No. I mean, this is not an easy decision, regardless of how this goes. But I would not be one to shun.
Okay. You know, the bottom line is, if there was no evidence presented about that, you know, that there was rallies, protests, whatever you want to call that, you understand that's totally irrelevant. You can completely put that in a separate category and it won't impact at all, one way or the other.
I could.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Mr. O'Neill.
Thank you. Afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
As mentioned in the initial questioning by Mr. Delayondo, this really is to try and find out what you know about the case, whatever it might be, because we don't want jurors who just know nothing about it, who sit under rocks or something like that. We'd much rather have people who are at least engaged. But to the extent that you are engaged in the sort of flow of information, that we know what it is. And because in that way, once we get it on the table, it's going to be a lot easier to figure out how to tell you to set it aside. And it sounds like you have had some experience or some exposure to the information, but not a lot. Is that sort of an overview?
Correct.
Okay. And you were asked of where it came from, and I guess it's just generally the media information that you've seen come across. You're on the internet because of your work sometimes, correct?
Correct.
And you see it sometimes on the news.
Correct.
You haven't sought out any particular information about the case?
No, sir.
Okay. And to the extent that you've had some particular information that you remember, you talked about seeing some photos, at least one of George Zimmerman.
Correct.
And could you describe that for me?
That was the back of his head where it was bloodied.
Okay. Do you recall what context you saw that?
Picture,
Just
just a flat picture on TV.
any news reporting that went along with it?
None that I would recall or have paid attention to.
Okay. Did that give you such a feeling or a connection to George Zimmerman that it would overpower your being able to look at the evidence here from the witness stand?
I would hope not.
Okay. Similarly, you said you had some questions or some photos that you saw about Trayvon Martin. Can you describe those?
When he was a young man, and then also in his real still, being older. Because I mean, the first pictures that came out showed him as a real young gentleman.
Did that give you any pause for concern? Why pictures of him as a younger child were being put out?
Well, initially I thought that was the young man that got killed.
The 12-year-old?
Yes.
And did that cause you any additional concern, for example, against George Zimmerman, because that was the child you thought was in the altercation with him?
I just didn't understand it, so I'll leave it at that.
Okay. And when you saw the more up-to-date photographs of Trayvon Martin, tell me about those.
Well, it made more sense for what had happened to him.
And what do you mean it made more sense?
With what I saw in the picture of his head.
Okay. Did it cause you concern against, for example, the state or the Martin family, that the earlier pictures were put out and then you found out that there were more accurate or older photographs existing?
Well, now it became more true to what had actually happened, but again, I'm not going to say that I understand what totally happened that night, because I still don't.
The main purpose, again, and what the judge will instruct you, is that whatever your memories are, faded or inaccurate, coming from the media as they might be, those that will be left outside the courtroom. Can you do that?
Yes, sir.
Can you further agree then to only decide the case on the facts that you get from the witness stand or that you see in evidence?
Yes, sir.
Any concern with being able to set aside those predispositions you might have about the case?
Yes, sir.
And you mentioned again, as many people who sat in that chair, that you understand it is quite an imposition if we ask you to stay with us the next 2, maybe as many as 4 weeks, but that's something that, though it would affect your life and your business, that you would be able to survive it?
Yes.
I appreciate your time. If I might have one moment, Your Honor. Unless any further questions, appreciate your time, sir.
Thank you. If you'll stay seated for just a moment, counsel, when you're ready, approach. Deputy Jarvis out of the courtroom. Thank you. Yes. Please be seated. Good afternoon. You're going to continue to be referred to as juror H31, and the attorneys are going to ask you questions about the questionnaire that you filled out on Tuesday morning, and we're going to begin with Mr. De La Ronda. You may proceed.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Afternoon.
As Judge Nelson stated, we're going to refer to you as H31, and we're just asking you questions about your knowledge of the case in terms of publicity.
Okay.
This is like part of the jury selection, but we're just focusing only at this time about what you've heard about the case.
Yes, sir.
Okay? And you've mentioned in your questionnaire that we had a chance to read that you were aware of what happened since day one due to the incident occurring near where you have some interaction nearby.
Correct.
I'll leave it at that without referencing what, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you've heard about it on the news, online, in the newspaper, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Tell me if you can what you've heard from the beginning of the case. What facts do you know about the case?
Well, I listened to the news, look online and different versions of it.
Sure.
From one end, from the Trayvon end, from the Zimmerman end, and
So
I really,
you're listening to both sides?
both sides.
Okay. Your exposure, was that on local TV and national
Yes.
TV?
Mm-hmm.
The local TV, remember what channel?
13.
Okay. How about national?
Very rare I watch national TV.
Okay. And on the internet, did you do some research on it, or did you look it up through Facebook, YouTube?
On Facebook, there were a couple of friends of mine, and I do have a couple of them that do have Trayvon's picture as their profile picture.
Okay.
That they have their side of their comments,
Gotcha.
but
That didn't sway you one way or the other, is that
No.
correct? Okay. And you had friends who have, I guess, in support of Trayvon Martin?
correct.
Okay. How about, do you know people who are in support of George Zimmerman?
No.
Okay. Even though the friends you have that are in support of Trayvon Martin didn't convince you to be in favor of Trayvon Martin?
No, because we don't have that type of looking at things. They have their own opinion, they express it, and that's it.
And you have your own opinion?
Correct.
Right. Sometimes the opinions clash, sometimes the opinions are,
No.
you don't have an opinion, and sometimes you just agree.
It's
right?
not a topic that we can bring up
Okay.
to speak about in any way or any manner.
Okay.
We see it on the news, we watch it, it goes on to the next thing,
Gotcha.
that's it. We're
All
done.
right. I was covering what you had, what do you recall about the case in terms of what happened? Do you remember what happened based on what you knew from TV?
Well, from what I heard on the TV, and precisely that day, I was also visiting a friend that lives in the complex next to where the incident
I got you.
happened.
Okay.
So in the morning, before I was transporting that way, they did tell me, well, you may have a little bit of traffic because something happened. Then I heard it on the news of what had transpired.
Sure.
And I was like, that's kind of odd because that neighborhood isn't,
I got
we've
you.
never heard anything of that at all. I
Sure.
used to live in the neighborhood,
Okay.
but that was about it.
Okay. So you were visiting somebody not in that retreat at Twin Lakes, but
It's the
somewhere
next-
nearby? Okay,
Mhm.
okay. Did that person that you were visiting later tell you that they had more information about the case?
No.
Okay. In terms of specifics about what happened, do you remember on TV what they said happened?
Well, from what I recall, it was, I guess Trayvon was walking back to the complex,
Okay.
and then something transpired, and then there were gunshots, but I don't really pay too much detailed attention to it because, like I said, it's something that did happen. Too bad I was in a very good community. Whatever happened, happened, but it's not anything that I'll be like, okay, I'm gonna lose sleep over.
Right. Now, did you at any time come across any pictures related to the case?
In
You
which
remember
one?
seeing any pictures that have anything to do with the case?
And
And any, see, what's difficult in asking you these questions, I can't tell you, oh, did you see a picture of A, B, or, I can't tell you what the
well, in the
picture.
newspapers.
Okay.
When we
What-
saw
what-
like the newspapers, and then you can
Right.
see it like on the internet.
Sure, what do you recall the pictures being of?
Well, I remember they took pictures of the complex, I believe
Okay.
it was. Then the hoodie picture from
Okay.
Trayvon, and then pictures of George.
What do you
And
remember the pictures of Mr. Zimmerman to be like?
Just, pictures like going into the courthouse,
Okay,
and like you see a lot of flashes of
sure,
people taking pictures of him.
okay. Any other pictures that you can remember related to this case at all?
Those are the ones I really pretty much
Okay.
recall.
All right. How about, you remember any, were there any kind of videos at all related to this case? I'm
Not
saying
that
there
I've
were.
seen online,
Okay.
no.
How about any kind of recordings of any type related to this case?
The ones that have been on TV.
Okay, what do you recall those recordings being of?
Well, when they're giving the options, they're like, we're gonna listen to this call of what happened, or the 911 incident,
Okay.
but that's about it.
Okay, did you form any opinions about that one way or the other?
Very neutral.
Okay, so you've been pretty neutral down the middle?
Yes.
Okay, and is that on purpose, just your nature in general? Or-
Yeah, that's
Okay.
pretty much how I am.
I wasn't trying to imply anything
No,
one way
it's
or the
okay.
other. So you're not one to make snap decisions one way or the other?
Correct.
Okay. Regarding the calls, do you remember what they were of in terms of when you say the 911 call? Do you remember what the 911 call was about?
Well, when they would open, like for example, I would be flipping to the channels, and I would always look towards the news because of the weather.
Sure.
And they would have anything, well, the latest update on the George Zimmerman, whatever trial, new evidence, and I can either be listening to it, or it could be in the background while I'm doing something.
Sure.
But never to be like very detailed to listening to it.
So you didn't.
I would hear the normal things that they would say, like someone was either crying, or someone was either saying this, or I was like, okay.
You didn't form an opinion one way or the other
No.
from what you heard?
It's I can have my own opinion, and everybody's been saying one thing, a lot of people can have their own opinion. That's normal. But it's not, like I said, it's not anything that will make me lose sleep, because it's not anything that,
Okay.
I can
When you
do.
say, when you say you have your own opinion, have you formed an opinion in this case?
Not really.
Okay, okay. Because you mentioned on here that you had not formed an opinion, is that
Mhm.
accurate? Is that correct?
that's
And I know you're
correct.
saying yes when you say uh-huh, or you say
Yes.
no. I'm trying to get it, we gotta get a yes or no just for purposes of
I
the record, if
understand.
that makes sense.
Yes.
How about discussions, other than the friends you mentioned, any other discussions with family, other friends that have told you about the case?
No.
Okay. Any court proceedings of what's happening in court? Do you remember seeing any of that stuff?
Whatever is transmitted on TV.
Okay. Anything come to mind about any of the court proceedings, any
Not
of the
really.
hearings at all, or nothing? Okay. That's a no for the record?
No.
Okay, thank you. Sometimes there's news where they tell you, car hit another car, and then they tell you, well, the car hit another car, but this is what really happened, and there's people commenting about it.
Mhm.
Do you understand what I'm saying? There's like lawyers or other people commenting. Have
Yes.
you heard any of that commentary
Not really.
about the case?
I really haven't paid too much attention to it, to be honest.
Okay. How about even online? Have you come across any commentary by people talking about what this really means or what this does, or, so-called legal experts talking about what the facts are?
Legally, no. Like I had advised previously through Facebook, some may have had an opinion, or what a shame this, or whatever, over and done with, move on.
Okay. All right, so you don't
I
give it
don't, I
much
haven't
weight?
really, no, because I have a very busy life. And I try to disconnect from electronics as much as I could. Because I have 2 small children that I try to focus more on them,
Sure.
and working because I'm a single mom.
Gotcha.
So for me to constantly be like stuck on the TV or something, I really don't, to be honest, I really don't have time for
Okay,
that.
all right. I gather you don't tweet about this case?
I
or
don't have
you?
Twitter.
You don't have Twitter? How about
No.
Facebook? Have you made comments?
I only have Facebook.
Did you make
Face-
any comments about the case at all?
I don't remember. You're more than happy to go ahead and look at my
No,
account.
no, I'm just saying, but in terms of just responding, I was thinking to your friends that did you say
Not that I
anything?
recall, but
Okay,
I do have one that she is very strongly towards Trayvon,
right,
and she's also African American, so.
right.
And like I said, everybody's entitled to their opinion, and nobody says any opinion on, no, I think you should know.
Now, are you gonna vote in favor of convicting Mr. Zimmerman just based on the fact that you have a friend that's African American and is on
That's not what I
Facebook?
said.
No, I'm saying you're not gonna do that, right?
No, I
Okay.
shouldn't.
Okay. You understand the law, you've gotta make a decision on what happens in this courtroom. right?
Correct.
I wasn't saying that you were saying that, I just
Okay.
wanna make sure. So the bottom line is you can agree to listen to all the evidence that happens in this courtroom only
Mhm.
and make your decision on that,
Correct,
right? And then follow obviously the law.
correct. I would prefer someone else do it because I really can't be here for the trial. I really can't. I can't afford it at my job either. I need to
Okay.
go back to
Well,
work.
that was my next question about the sequester, because you were asked and you stated that it would not be a hardship, or it would not be an insurmountable hardship.
Correct, but at work I was advised I do not get paid for this. And unfortunately, like I did advise, I am a single mom. I'm the only head of household and I do have to look after my children.
And your kids are minors?
They're under the age of 14, yes.
Okay. So even though you realize anybody that's gonna sit on the jury is gonna it's gonna be a hardship for them, in your opinion, you believe yours is an insurmountable hardship?
Well, I'm basically alone here.
Right.
So I have to keep asking friends to look after them and that's a burden sometimes to people.
Sure.
And I do not like to burden anyone. I take full responsibility of my children.
Right. Because in this case, in addition to taking anywhere, we estimate from 2 to 4 weeks, the jury's actually be sequestered.
That's correct.
Okay, so now that you're aware of that, you believe that is going to be a hardship
Yes,
for you?
it is 100% unfortunately.
All right. May we approach the bench, Your Honor?
Please be seated. Good afternoon. Take a deep breath. You're still going to be referred to as juror H35, and the attorneys are going to ask you questions about the questionnaire you filled out on Tuesday morning, and we're going to begin with Mr. De La Ronda.
Good afternoon, ma'am. As Judge Nelson indicated, we're asking you questions about the questionnaire, so about the publicity and that aspect of it. I think, were you one of the jurors that had a car issue one day in terms of coming here?
That's
Is
me.
everything all right regarding that?
I'm still getting it fixed. I borrowed my mother-in-law's car,
Okay.
so.
All right. Well, I'm glad to hear that in that sense that you were able to get here. I'm sorry about the car
It's okay.
repair issue. You mentioned in your questionnaire that you heard about this from the news, that he's being investigated for the death of Trayvon Martin. It happened in Sanford, Florida. That's all you really needed.
Actually, I didn't know that Facebook, you had to write anything about Facebook, but I
Okay.
did like something about the case on Facebook.
You did do something about it?
Yeah, I don't remember exactly what it was. It was a while ago, but I did like something on Facebook about it. I didn't write anything or anything like that. But.
Okay, educate me a little bit about this. My wife and kids have Facebook. I don't. When you say you wrote something about it, or?
No. I liked a picture,
Okay,
but I don't remember where it was from. It just came up on my wall, and that's what
okay.
yeah.
So is there a picture of somebody in the case on your
Correct.
Facebook wall?
Mhm.
Do you remember who that is?
Trayvon.
Okay. And you just, what did you do, capture it and put it on there, or what?
No. I just it just comes up on your page, and I liked it.
Okay.
I don't
Would
know
it
how
still be on there?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
It happened a while ago.
Oh, I see. So at one point you saw it and you liked it and you put it on your Facebook, but it's not.
No. I didn't put it on my Facebook.
Okay, tell me a little bit about that.
Okay, Facebook, you
Yeah.
have a wall, and then
Okay.
you have your profile.
Okay.
Your wall has different people from all over
Sure.
that write whatever they want to write.
I got you.
And you have the choice whether to like it or not. I don't remember what exactly it was about, but I liked it, and I know his picture was on there.
Okay.
So,
Was there commentary about him or about the case? on
yes,
it?
but I didn't click on that. I didn't look at that or
Okay.
anything.
Do you remember what the picture of Trayvon Martin looked like that you put, I liked?
No, I
Okay.
don't remember.
You mentioned in terms of exposure in the news, would that have been the local TV stations or the,
Local.
okay.
I watched the news. I never really got into the case or anything. I seen some things though. So I mean,
Okay.
I'm not really comfortable with it, to be honest. So
You're not comfortable with what?
with just seeing things and then everyone telling me that I shouldn't see anything and I shouldn't know anything. And I don't know exactly, but what I've told on the thing that he was charged with it.
Sure.
So I'm not really.
No, there's nothing to be, people, we realize most people do not live under a rock somewhere, in a cave, or they don't live in an isolated island. We realize people watch TV and stuff,
Right.
and there's nothing wrong in doing that. The question is whether that would impact you
Yeah.
in being able to set it aside. You don't believe it would.
No, I don't really know much about it or have an
Okay.
opinion.
Right. So what we're trying to find out from you is what you kind of know about it, what you remember hearing. And then second, and most importantly, there's three things. Number two is whether you can set it aside. And whether if by chance you sit on a jury, if by chance you hear some evidence and it's contrary to what you saw.
I also know that something about Trayvon buying Skittles.
Okay.
That's
That's all right. Don't be reluctant to tell us what you know, because
okay.
you just tell us what you know, and if you don't know something, just as best you can remember. I'm assuming that by me asking these questions now, it's kind of in your mind, you're kind of thinking,
Yeah.
okay, what do I know? What do I know? Okay, just as best you can, take your time.
Okay.
Just sit back and get comfortable, and as best you can. So you remember something about Skittles. What else do you remember? Anything else?
That's
Do
really.
you remember anything about what happened in terms of Trayvon Martin dying and Mr. Zimmerman?
Oh,
being-
I also know that Mr. Zimmerman was a security guard, and I think he was working.
Okay.
And I'm sorry I didn't write that on the paper. This
That-
is my first
Li-
time.
No, that's all right.
Okay.
Believe it or not, some jurors, you just put news, and that's
Okay.
it. So, don't feel like you haven't,
Okay.
you intentionally left stuff out. What else do you kind of remember about the case?
Hoodie. I've heard that
Okay.
everywhere, though.
Okay.
That Trayvon was wearing a
Sure.
hoodie.
Do you remember, back, it happened in February of last year, do you remember?
Yeah, I don't remember when it happened.
Sure, and my question is your first impressions or contact in terms of the media, was it back then or was it more recently? When you heard about the case?
I didn't have an opinion about it. Or
No, I'm not asking whether you had an opinion, but when you first got exposed in terms of hearing about the case, were you were living in, don't tell me what the address is, but you were living in Seminole County back in February of last year?
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember about the time that it happened, whether you were aware of it happening?
I've seen it on the news,
Okay,
yes.
okay. And you remember something about Skittles, something about Mr. Zimmerman being a security guard or some aspect of that, and then also a hoodie. What else do you remember, anything about the case?
I don't
Okay.
really acknowledge
Alright.
of knowing much because I didn't tune
Sure.
it out really. I didn't.
Now, did you, do you read the newspaper either in, the hard copy, the old-fashioned way, or did you
No,
read it
sir, I
online?
didn't read. Just watch the news and,
Okay.
I mean, Facebook,
Okay.
you know.
Now, Facebook apparently has a drop-down menu.
Everyone has their own opinions, I
Right.
guess, and
Were you swayed one way or the other by people's opinions
No,
in
sir.
favor of or against one side or the other?
no,
Okay. Did you ever express an opinion on any of those sites?
no, I never talked about it.
Okay. Do you remember any photographs at all related to the case that you saw?
Yes.
Okay, tell me about those.
Well, just, on Facebook, the picture of Trayvon, I don't really remember what
Okay.
it looked like.
Okay,
And then I would see George Zimmerman's face on TV.
okay.
That's-
Anything else you can remember? Any other photographs of either Mr. Zimmerman, Trayvon Martin, or any other aspect of the case?
No.
Okay. How about any kind of court proceedings, like what happened in court,
No, I
Nothing
don't
about
know
that?
anything.
How about any kind of recordings, either video or audio, that you heard about this case, if there were any?
No, I don't
Okay.
recall of knowing anything. I mean, I watch the news, but I can't remember. My
Sure.
memory doesn't,
Okay.
I wasn't interested in it, so.
That's fine. How about anything associated with the case that wasn't the case itself, that didn't involve the shooting itself? Anything about any other aspect of what was going on in the community about the time it happened or thereafter?
No.
Nothing rings a bell?
Mm-mm.
Do you believe that the media in its coverage of this case was biased one way or the other, in terms of either in favor of Mr. Zimmerman or in favor of Trayvon Martin?
I don't really know. I
Okay.
don't recall.
When you listen to TV, do you feel the media, besides giving the news, actually sometimes gives commentary about what's going on?
Can you ask me?
And my question is, have you ever heard of anybody commenting about the case?
Oh, yeah, my
Okay.
family,
Okay,
a lot of people talk.
let's talk about the family now. Did they give you their opinions about what was happening on the case, or how they felt one way or the other?
I mean, just like when I would be around my family, if it came up, I mean, it would come up and they would say, what was going on, but not really anything like to an extreme. They would just be like, oh, the George Zimmerman
Right.
thing and how it
Okay.
happened in Sanford and it was so close and it was such a big case.
Okay, anything about the family telling you any other facts other than what you've mentioned right now?
Yes, my father did tell me that he was bonded out recently.
Okay. Anything else?
That's it,
Okay.
of my knowledge of what I
Okay.
remember.
Anything about friends that they told you about what they had heard?
No, I don't really have many friends. I keep to my family.
Okay. If somebody came into town that you knew and they asked you, what's going on here about this case, what would you tell them the case is about?
Nothing because I'm a juror.
Okay, very good answer. But assuming you could talk, assuming you weren't a juror.
Right.
Okay, and by the way, you're really following the judge's admonitions and instructions to a T. Question is, if you weren't a juror and you were asked by a relative or a friend just came into town and goes, what the heck is going on? What's this case about? What would you tell them?
That the man was a security guard and an altercation happened. I don't know. and the boy was wearing a hoodie and going to get Skittles, I guess. That's
Okay.
all I.
And if they asked you, the person asked you, altercation, what do you mean by that? Could you elaborate in any more way, other than it was an altercation?
No, I guess there was a gun involved because
Okay.
he was shot, but that's all I know.
Okay. I'm trying to prod your mind to see if you can remember anything else, maybe not doing a good job of it, but, and it's perfectly all right if that's all you remember. Question is, you're picked as a juror. You listen to all the evidence, you're sitting there, and then as a witness says, you know, something, you remember it a little bit different. Not from what the witness is saying, but you, all of a sudden in your mind, you go, oh, hold on, there was something on TV that said, you know, something different than the witness. Would you rely on what you remember on TV or what the witness said?
What the witness said, of course.
Can you agree to disregard whatever you,
The media is not what the case is about.
okay, so you agree to completely disregard what's been on
Correct.
the media?
Yeah.
Is there any doubt that you could do that?
No, absolutely
Okay,
not.
all right. The other aspect that I want to cover very briefly is, in the questionnaire you filled out, it mentioned about hardship, insurmountable hardship. We realize that people, when we ask to serve as jurors, it's going to be a hardship, you know, it's an
Right.
inconvenience.
Mm-hmm.
Some more extremes than other. But there's been I guess, an estimate as best we can as to how long the jury will take. Once we get the jury picked, we're still in the process of picking one.
Right.
Once we actually start the trial, we expect it to be anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And the court has also made a determination, the judge has made a determination that the jury will be sequestered so that, you know, the media you won't be exposed to publicity about the case. With those two facts, they would not cause an insurmountable hardship for you? Is that correct?
I'm moving right at the moment. I'm in the process of packing, and I have to move out by the end of the month, but that's
Okay.
it right now.
Are you moving like out of the, don't tell me where you live right now, but are you moving like out of the county or?
No.
Just, okay, so you're not
actually-
moving like to Miami or Detroit?
No,
or
no, no,
something?
no, no. I'm moving to Bithlo, Florida, so.
I'm sorry.
Bithlo, I believe that's Orange County, actually. I'm on the
Okay.
line. I live in Winter
Okay,
Park. And
okay, that's all right, you're not gonna get in trouble or anything, I'm just trying to keep you anonymous in terms of where you live.
Oh, okay.
I guess the city or one area is not just your actual address. But so you're gonna be moving at some point towards the
Yes.
end of the month?
Yes.
Okay. Let me have a moment, Your Honor. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Romero.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. Afternoon,
Hi.
how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. My name is Mark Romero. I represent George Zimmerman in the middle, Robert Herschel on this side, and Don West is my co-counsel. A few more questions to follow up on what Mr. Del Rionda asked you, the main purpose of which is to sort of drill in a little bit so that we know what you know about the case already. It's okay, whatever you know about the case, or as little as you know about the case. We just want to know what you know, because then we're going to tell you basically to forget about it all. So my purpose is to see what it is that you remember. But the main instruction that you need to follow from the court is that whatever you might remember about the case, whatever pictures or whatever it might be, you would need to agree with us that that is not what we call evidence, right?
Right.
And it's not what you would consider in reaching a verdict,
Right.
unless you hear it from a witness
Of
or see it
course.
in evidence.
Yes.
Any concern with being able to do that?
No, absolutely not.
Okay. You had said that you saw at least one photograph of Trayvon Martin online. And can you describe it for me at all?
No, I don't. It was a while ago. I don't remember. I just liked it. I don't even remember what it had to do with it, but
Okay.
I liked it.
And can you tell me what it was that you read about or knew about when you first saw it that led to your decision to like it?
No, I can't tell you. I just remember it was something about it.
Okay. Was that something that,
I just remember seeing a picture of him and liking it. I don't remember if it was, if there's different things that people put on there. I don't even remember what it was. It wasn't one of my friends that had posted it or anything. It was just something
okay.
that was on there.
Well, the reason for my inquiry is I want to see if in fact you decide to like something concerning Trayvon Martin as opposed to something concerning George Zimmerman.
Okay.
So explain why it was something, was
Yeah,
it
it didn't have anything to even do with the case, I don't think. I
Okay.
think it was more of a racial thing than anything.
Did you think that the way this was covered by the media was infusing a racial element to it?
I don't really know that much. I mean, on Facebook, there's different racial things, like music artists or something like that, that have said something about it, but
Tell me about some of the comments of the people that you've seen on Facebook, those who have commented about the case. Tell me what they've said.
not really anything that anyone's commented, more like just, I don't know, I guess with the whole hoodie thing and black people wearing hoodies, I don't really know much, just that it had been a big thing for younger people or something like that. I'm not too familiar.
Okay. Again, tell me if you can what you remember about that issue, whether it was on Facebook or in general media, what you had heard about with this issue regarding a hoodie or...
I'm not quite sure. I just remember, I vaguely remember, just because of that's going on, I wouldn't even remembered it if I wasn't here, because it's not that important to me in my life. But I remember seeing it, and it was something to do with racial and to like or not like if you're racist or something like that. It was something like that. I don't know.
Do you think there's anything about that element, that there may be potential racial overtones in this case that would affect you in being able to sit as a juror?
No, absolutely not. I don't form an opinion over what I've seen. I form an opinion over information that I hear.
As opposed to the color
As
of
opposed
people's
to
skin.
the truth or, what's going on with the real thing, not media.
Okay. Have you seen any pictures of George Zimmerman before
On the
this week?
news, just on the news, just maybe his picture would come up. I know, I've seen his face on the news, that's all.
Sure. Any pictures that depicted any type of injuries or physical attributes of his?
No, I haven't seen anything.
And I think Mr. Del Rionda may have asked you this, so bear with me if he has, but if you were asked, I think he asked, a friend of yours had asked you what this case was about. If I asked you to come up with just 3 things that you thought were the most significant about this case that stick out in your mind, what would they be?
I don't know if I could really tell you that. I don't know.
Okay, just in your mind, so whatever they might be.
I don't know because I'm not too informed with the case. And whatever the 3 things I've told you is basically everything I know.
Okay.
So I couldn't, that would just be telling you again.
And you said that you had at least had one conversation or a note of talking to your dad about it. Has he discussed with you anything more about the case?
No, I don't really talk to my father often, so.
At
just
any
came up.
I'm sorry?
It just came up one time when I was talking to him, but I haven't talked to him in a while, so.
Any family members that you've discussed this with that we
No.
haven't talked about?
No, not since I've been here. Maybe in the past, someone has said something to me about it. And I don't know, I have family get-togethers and they talk about all different things. I'm not 100% sure. It was never like a topic that we just talked about, nothing like that. It might have came up, I'm gonna be honest.
And as I started out with, should something come to mind that you remember, whether it was a picture you may have been seeing or anything like that, can you agree that if you didn't hear about it in a courtroom from a witness or from a piece of evidence that you would not consider it in your deliberations?
No, absolutely not.
And let's say you're on the jury, you've been through the trial, you're now in the back doing what jurors do, which is deliberate and decide on a verdict, and some other juror brings up something that they remember that didn't come from the courtroom. How would you react to that?
No one's opinion matters but my opinion. When we come together, obviously we have to discuss about it, but whatever someone else says is not, it's just what I think and how I feel when it comes to their opinion.
And you asked, you answered a question that you understand that this trial could last 2 to 4 weeks, correct?
Yes.
And the judge has suggested or ruled that because of the potential of outside influence on the jury, that it's going to be a sequestered jury, meaning that you'll be spending
Right.
not just the days with us, but nights as well.
Correct.
And that's something that, though it's going to be an inconvenience, as it would be to anyone, that's not something that would be impossible for you to accomplish.
Like I said, I'm moving at the end of the month and I have to move.
Okay.
And I want to be there for America and do this, but I have obligations and I didn't know to write that in the paper. I didn't know to write all that kind of stuff because I'm new to this and I have social anxiety very bad, so this is very hard for me. But I didn't know that I should write that on the paper, but I am moving and I have to move by the
Okay.
29th, so.
All right. First of all, if this is you being anxious, you're doing fine. So don't worry about it. Take a breath. You're doing very well. And but for having to move, if that was able to be accomplished somehow, other than that, you would be able to serve with us, correct?
I would, other than me moving, yes.
Okay. And you did say you have some family here in town?
Yes.
Okay. So if we had, or if you had to put more of the responsibility on them to help get things like furniture moved and utility deposits put in place and all that, you would have those people to assist you?
If I had to be here, yes.
Okay. And what may well happen, should you be chosen on the jury, is that decision would not be made for a few days, and you would have some time to plan before we would actually begin the trial, and only when we begin the trial would you be sequestered. So with a few days lead time, would that assist in taking care of that issue?
Not a few days, no, but I would get someone to help me if I had need be to be here.
Okay. You might just have a moment. Ron. And I've sort of defaulted to your Facebook friends, and I think that you've said you haven't had a lot of discussions, but just to clear, whether it be Facebook friends or real life friends, or whatever we now call them to show the difference nowadays, have you discussed it with any of your friends in any significance that we haven't talked about?
Not that I recall.
Okay.
I
And how
mean, my
about-
family would talk about it and stuff. I might have said one word about it or something.
Okay.
But I've never had a full-blown discussion about this case at all because it
And
wasn't
I think you said
interesting to me.
I'm sorry. None of your family members had any strong opinions that they related to you about
No,
this?
it wasn't a talk like that.
And do you go to church?
Yes, I do.
Any conversations or sermons or anything mentioned about this in your church?
No. Mm-mm.
Okay. Just one way or the other, pray for families or
No,
tragedies
it's
or
never
anything
came
like
up,
that?
this case is never came up.
Okay. Thanks very much for the time. I
Thank you
appreciate it.
so
Thank
much.
you, Ron.
If you'll remain seated for just one moment, and counsel, when you're ready, please approach. Just a moment, please. Please be seated, everyone. And before I get started with anything, let me make sure I have those of you here who I needed here. So when I read your juror number, if you just raise your hand. H69, H81, H86, I5, I14, I19, I24, I33, I44, I46, I49, I54. Okay, that group. Do I also have here I64, I65, I66, I68, I76, and I79? Okay. Those of you from H through I-54, I need you back tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. The deputies will tell you where you're supposed to be. I-64, I-66, I-65, I-68, I-76, and I-79, if you'll report in Wednesday morning at 9 a.m. Okay, before I let you all go, just so we know, I'll say your numbers again so there's no confusion. These are the people that will report tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. H69, H81, H86, I5, I14, I19, I24, I33, I44, I46, I49, I54. The following will be reporting Wednesday morning at 9 a.m. I-64, I-65, I-66, I-68, I-76, and I-79. Are you all have in your mind which group you're in? Okay, before I let you go for tonight, I'm going to give you the admonishments again. You're not to read or listen to any radio, television, or newspaper reports about this case. You're not to, do I have your assurance that you'll abide by that instruction? Yes. You're not to discuss the case amongst yourselves nor with anybody else, so if anybody tries to talk to you about the case, please leave them at once and report the matter to the deputy. That includes anything about the case, the jury selection process, the questionnaires, or anything. Do I have your assurance that you'll abide by that instruction? Yes. You're not to use any type of an electronic device to get on the internet to do any independent research about the case, people, places, things, terminology, or anything. Do I have your assurance that you'll abide by that instruction? Yes. And you're not to read or create any emails, text messages, Twitters, tweets, blogs, or social networking pages about the case. Do I have your assurance that you'll abide by that instruction? Yes. Okay, and I'm going to let you go now for the evening. Have a good evening, and again, thank you for your patience. We have one more group coming in.
Here's the credit.
Okay, please be seated, and we have with us here right now jurors H7, H18, H29, and H35. Okay, I'm going to excuse you until Wednesday at 9 a.m. And the deputies will tell you where they want you to report Wednesday morning at 9 a.m. While you're on recess from this case until then, I'm going to give you the admonishments, first of which is you're not to read or listen to any radio, television, or newspaper reports about this case. Do I have your assurance that you will abide by that instruction? Yes. You're not to discuss the case amongst yourselves or with anybody else. That includes family, friends, co-workers, or anybody. If somebody tries to talk to you about the case, please leave them at once. Do I have your assurance that you will abide by that instruction? You're not to use any type of device to get on the internet to do any independent research about this case. That includes people, places, things, terminology, anything whatsoever. Do I have your assurance that you'll abide by that instruction? And you're not to read or create any emails, text messages, Twitters, tweets, blogs, or social networking pages about this case. Do I have your assurance that you'll abide by that instruction? Yes. With those instructions, you will report back Wednesday morning at 9 a.m. Have a good evening. Thank you. Mr. Zimmerman? Let me make sure the door gets closed. Thank you. You've had the opportunity yesterday and, Friday. I think I talked to you about this up until Friday at lunch, but you had an opportunity Friday and again today on Monday to listen to the individual questions, the questioning of the potential jurors. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, and you had already reviewed their juror questionnaires?
Yes, Your Honor.
And you had an opportunity to talk with your attorneys about the jurors and the questioning of them?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, and they've made certain decisions about certain jurors. Are you in agreement with those decisions?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you very much. You may be seated. The court will be in recess. Let me know when you're ready to begin the Fry hearing, or let the deputies know and they'll let me know, and we'll begin. Okay, court will be in recess.